Let's imagine a scene for a second. The entrance into a gym, say in the early 2000s.
Oh, yes, I can picture that kind of atmosphere perfectly.
Exactly. We all have that image in mind. The famous fluorescent white ceiling lights humming slightly, the shiny machines perfectly aligned, almost intimidating, and at the front of the room, the instructor performing each movement with surgical precision.
That's it, a completely flawless mechanism. Back then, that was the absolute reference. It was the pinnacle of professionalism expected in that environment.
Exactly. The contract was very simple, almost binary.
Very clinical, yeah. You paid for an hour, received undeniable technical expertise to work your muscles, broke a sweat, and then went home. It was a purely utilitarian transaction.
And yet, with that same clinical coldness, something feels off. It sounds terribly false.
Well, it just doesn't work anymore.
It's like watching a huge blockbuster with spectacular special effects, but with the entire soundtrack removed. The visuals are beautiful, the technique is perfect, but there's no emotion. The magic no longer works. The client gets bored. And most importantly, they don't come back.
And that's a fascinating marker of a bygone era. The deep criteria that define the value of a space, especially in the vast wellness sector, have radically changed. It's no longer the equipment that matters most, it's the psychological resonance of the place.
All right, let's break this down. Because this is really the core of our analysis today. Our mission is to deeply understand a fascinating thesis by Caroline Berger de Fémynie.
Exactly, an essential expert in the field. She's the founder of Studio Biopilates Paris, a content creator and a certified trainer in highly specialized methods like Stott Pilates and gyrotonic.
And through her research, she takes a highly analytical, incredibly precise look at the rapid transformation of the Pilates market by 2026. What emerges is clear. Having state-of-the-art machines and highly skilled instructors is no longer enough to survive.
Absolutely, and this topic is extremely relevant for everyone listening. This text doesn't just analyze the evolution of physical postures, it reveals the real secret to economic survival in a market that has reached total saturation.
Yeah, a market where everyone is doing the same thing?
Exactly. The author theorizes and documents this crucial shift from traditional service delivery to what we call the experience economy.
So historically, a studio sold time slots. It was unidirectional and highly standardized. The instructor demonstrates, the student imitates. And the study explains that this model is collapsing due to a leveling down of competitive advantage.
That's the very principle of saturation through homogenization. But be careful, it doesn't mean teaching quality has declined. Quite the opposite. Technical excellence has simply become the absolute standard.
So instructors are actually better than before? Professional training today is excellent. High-quality equipment is mass-produced. So offering a technically perfect class has become a basic requirement. It's essential, yes, but completely insufficient to stand out from the studio next door.
It's like buying a high-end smartphone today. We all expect the camera to be amazing, to shoot in high definition, for the screen to be smooth. That's no longer a revolutionary selling point. It's the bare minimum.
That's a great analogy.
Right. If a brand launches a phone saying it makes calls well and takes nice photos, it's invisible. And Caroline Berger de Fémynie's research shows that if a studio just offers technically correct classes, it becomes invisible too. It's interchangeable.
What's fascinating is how this standardization forces all market players to seek value elsewhere. Since pure technique can no longer justify pricing or loyalty, economic value shifts
Shifts toward what?
toward the creation of an intangible asset. You're no longer selling time to move the body. You're creating perceived emotional value that is, by nature, unique and non-replicable.
But concretely, how do you build something intangible? If perfect movement is already a given, what can a studio really capitalize on?
The research points directly to the environment in which the class takes place.
Exactly. We step fully into the experience economy, based on theories by Pine and Gilmore or Schmidt. The core idea is that the service is no longer a mechanical action, but a memorable event.
So we go far beyond just exercising.
Absolutely. Environmental psychology shows that the studio must stop being just a room and become a performative space. The physical environment literally dictates the emotional state of the person inside it. Every visual or auditory detail sends a signal to the brain even before the first movement. That's where it gets really interesting. The article describes the creation of what I'd call a multisensory stage. It's no longer decoration, it's sensory engineering.
Exactly. We're talking about very precise mechanisms.
The author mentions chromotherapy, lighting that doesn't just illuminate the space but is adjusted depending on the time of day, and curated playlists designed to synchronize mood and movement. We're closer to theatre than fitness.
It really is a form of staging.
But I have to pause and ask the uncomfortable question. We're talking about Pilates, a discipline historically strict, focused on internal concentration and absolute control. Doesn't adding ambient lighting and immersive sound risk distracting people from real effort, turning it into something superficial?
That's a very relevant objection, and the research addresses it with great nuance. This is not entertainment meant to mask a lack of rigor. On the contrary, these elements act as precise psychophysiological triggers.
So there's a real biological impact?
Exactly. Take lighting, for example. Harsh light increases cortisol and creates a stress-like alert state. On the other hand, a warm, dim light in an evening class activates the parasympathetic system.
So the heart rate slows down before the person even lies on the mat.
Exactly. And sound works the same way. Certain frequencies help the brain reach a flow state, where concentration is so deep that time disappears. So the environment is an invisible tool that amplifies body awareness, not dilutes it.
So this multisensory theatre is actually part of the teaching method.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
But we come back to something essential. Even a perfect stage remains empty without real human connection. Where does the human element fit in?
It becomes the central element of what the author calls the sociology of well-being. This is a powerful shift from mechanical instructor-student interaction to the animation of a collective.
A collective? We're no longer just clients sweating side by side.
No. Sociological research highlights a fundamental psychological need: the need to be recognized. The powerful concept of feeling seen.
Feeling seen? I love that.
It's essential. Being welcomed authentically, by name, with genuine awareness of your state, that creates a far deeper emotional bond than any exercise sequence.
So instructors become experience catalysts. Their main tool is empathy as much as anatomy.
Exactly. And the study goes further, drawing on Muniz and Ogin's theory of consumer communities. The idea is to create shared values and rituals that transform the studio into a space of social connection.
But let me challenge that. After a terrible day at work, you don't necessarily want to socialize at the gym. Isn't there a risk of pushing people away?
That's a valid concern. But the goal is not forced socialization. A community here is not about constant interaction. It's about meaningful coexistence.
That's reassuring.
Even in silence, practicing in a space where respect and care are present creates immense value. The presence of others becomes reassuring, not intrusive.
So it's about group energy.
Exactly. The studio becomes a third place, neither home nor work.
A place of emotional anchoring.
Yes, an antidote to isolation.
But let's be practical, it's still a business. How do you measure something as abstract as emotion?
That's where the methodology is powerful. Caroline Berger de Fémynie uses a mixed method approach, quantitative and qualitative.
Numbers and stories?
Exactly. Surveys measure satisfaction, while interviews explain why clients return.
And the result?
Clear. Emotional experience outweighs technical performance, even more than price.
That's huge.
It completely redefines loyalty,
So the future studio is,
an ecosystem. With technology, community, personalization,
almost overwhelming when you think about it.
yes, but also incredibly exciting.
So ultimately, the Pilates studio becomes a space of belonging.
Exactly.
And maybe human connection itself is becoming a premium service.
That's the real question.
A powerful thought to leave you with. Thanks for listening and see you soon for another deep dive.